of life during pregnancy, Bill, you made some comments in public in relation to, I think one of the comments was, why would any woman want to put themselves through that process of having to go before a panel and almost have their mental health questioned? Or so if we got to a position here where we actually had a more liberal regime in terms of terminations, and the grounds of mental health obviously was one of them, I presume that analysis would still stand no matter whether we had terminations in all circumstances. If somebody had to go before a panel of psychiatrists and almost prove themselves, it doesn't make a difference whether it's a very restrictive regime or a very relaxed liberal regime. To put a woman through that is obviously going to be distressing. So I just don't know how you deal with that. I mean, is one of the ways you deal with it, and we've heard a lot of the evidence today, is that you would have on request terminations up to a certain period. I'm just wondering what your own opinion on it would be in terms of the mental health area. I mean, I presume you would say that it would never be good to have a woman almost have to prove her mental health status before she could access a termination, regardless of whether it's a restrictive regime or a very liberal regime.
I mean, irrespective of the issue of termination, for somebody coming to see somebody, a psychiatrist, who has to prove a negative, I'm not sure how you do that and how the psychiatrist determines that. Key thing in anyone coming to see me or any psychiatrist is, first and most important thing is going to be the relationship that's in that room. Can that person talk to me? Do they feel heard? Do they feel listened to? That's the key starting point. I remember being at a lecture some years ago by Professor Halligan, who was an Irish paediatrician, but he was talking about medicine in general. He was the deputy head of the NHS in England. And he was talking about medicine, surgery, every single specialty. And one thing he said is that any patient coming to any doctor, the first thing you want to know is they care. And if they care, then it's likely that you'll be heard. So even if it's a cardiac complaint, you know there's a doctor listening to you. But then they're going to take a proper history, they're going to hear the story. If they're not interested, they're going to miss things, and the patient often won't tell you things. Now, particularly in the area of mental health, for somebody to tell me personal things, difficult things, about themselves, their history, their feelings, their previous experiences, that requires a real sense of trust and a sense of, yeah, if that appointment is imposed on them, or I go in some sort of judgmental way, or I bring my personal attitudes or history in either direction to that, that's going to be a complete failure of an appointment. So putting people through some, insisting that people go through some particular process where they have to see a series of psychiatrists, or even insisting that they see one, if she's absolutely in her own mind clear what the situation is for her, that's not going to be a total waste of an appointment, probably abusive of her, well, definitely abusive of her, and highly unlikely to talk about what matters, because she's being forced into a situation that's not helpful and is wasting her time, my time, and I think is damaging.
Have a more negative impact on her mental health.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Thank you.